Looks like we're going. Good evening. It is Friday, November 8th at 9:32. I hope you're doing well. It's a kind of a laid back evening. It was a bit of a laid back evening in Mackey Arena earlier tonight when Purdue beat Northern Kentucky 72-50, improved to 2-0 on the young season. I've got some thoughts on it. Was it a costly win? We'll talk about that. I think the biggest story might be what transpired very early in the game. We'll talk about that. But before I do it, thanks to our pals at Home Field Apparel. Head over to homefieldapparel.com. Enter Boiled25 for 15% off. They've got the Platinum Packs. They've got the Retro Coaches Jackets. They've got a lot of cool stuff. Nose around a little bit. Find yourself something. Put it in your cart. Enter Boiled25. Get a discount. They had a Black Friday sale going. I think it's over. So, anyway, so when you're on campus, maybe you're there tonight. Maybe you're there now. Maybe I'm on the wall at one of the TVs. I could only be so lucky. Head over to AJ's. And before you go there, go to eatajs.com. You can pre-order. But once you're there, order a pint or order yourself your favorite pub fare. They've got it, and it's delicious, and their staff is amazing. Burgers, beef, and beer. That's AJ's. AJ's on Vine. But, okay, so early in the game, I think, in the first minute and a half or something, Daniel Jacobson went down awkwardly, and I went back and I watched it a couple times, and it's not your typical knee injury, so that's good news. I mean, if you go over on Twitter and you look at what experts are saying, quote unquote experts, there are a lot of people talking about knee injury, but it looks to me like a shin injury, and I don't think it's as severe as a break, just because he stayed on the bench for so long. They put an ice pack on him, and he was on crutches, so he was obviously hurting. But the big question is, how much time is this going to cost Daniel Jacobson? How much time is this going to cost Purdue? And how bad is this injury? He kind of took a knee to the shin. I think everybody who's played basketball has taken a knee to the knee. The problem is his knee is higher than most people's, surely higher than the guy who was guarding him there in the post. And he went down really awkwardly, then couldn't put a whole bunch of weight on it. Was helped off by Jakari Harris and somebody else. Can't remember who it was. So that happened early in the game. Purdue quickly got into a little bit of a rhythm before completely hitting the brakes. And then they went on one of the longest cold spells I can remember in the last few years. Obviously, this is the thing that I tried to enunciate. I tried to talk about in the offseason of this year, how difficult it is to replace a guy like Zach Edey. You don't replace him. But Purdue just couldn't score for a long period of time. Jumpers weren't falling. Three-pointers were kind of like they were for a spell in the last game. But they just couldn't score. So there's a lid on the rim. They never lost the lead. Their lead shrunk down to 5 or something like that. I mean, it didn't feel like the game was in jeopardy or anything bad was happening. Just Purdue couldn't produce offensively. At the same time, Purdue's defense looked really, really good on Northern Kentucky. Northern Kentucky takes a lot of deep shots. There's a lot of things Purdue needs to do better, but that desert, that dry spell, if you will, during that period, kind of was the thing that sticks out most to me after the Jacobson injury. And it shows a lot about this team trying to grow up. And that's why I in the thumbnail said this is a work in progress. This was a sign, just like the second half of the last game. This team has a lot of getting better to do. Painter's still messing around with the lineups, clearly. And I think the team still doesn't have much rhythm. At times you saw some good stuff from the normal cast of characters. Fletch led all scorers. Smith had some pretty nifty passes. Smith isn't he doesn't have much of an offensive rhythm right now, and that's multiple reasons. He also has had a couple assists, quite a few every game where he drops a dime to somebody. I can remember one specifically tonight to Burgess, where he gave Burgess the ball right where he needed to give it to him, and Burgess missed the layup. That just gonna happen, right? This is part of the growing pains. But the interesting, weird thing about Jacobson's injury specifically is you saw guys playing a lot more. Last game, I think, played 2 minutes. This game, it felt like he played in the teens or 12 to 15 minutes, I'm guessing. He played a lot more. He played solidly again. I think he's going to do that. To me, it seems like he's pretty trusty. Of course, Waddell has a broken hand now, so you didn't see him at all, and you're not going to see him for a little bit. And I didn't talk about that at all last game, I don't think. But the big thing is the lack of rhythm offensively really sticks out. The defense looks like it's getting better. It was improved versus last game. I think that really annoyed Painter last game, but the turnovers were down a little bit, but still I think Purdue turned over the ball 10 to 15 times. I haven't looked exactly at it. But it's a game that Northern Kentucky's not a great team. They lost to Florida State by, I think, 10 or something previous game. This game, Purdue just kept them at an arm's length. But once again, Mackey looks great on TV. Mackey looks full. I don't know. I think it was sellout, but looks great. And Purdue fans, I think, continue. It's a different culture than it used to be. And I don't know exactly when everything changed. I think Hummel has talked about this, how the paint crew has actually gotten better since he left. I completely agree. The Mackey environment's gotten better since, of course, I was there. See the gray in my beard. It's been a long time. But even on games that are not big deals, quote unquote big deals, Mackey brings it, and it does make a difference. I used to say, is it a 7-point difference? Is it that much? It might be. But the funny thing is you can see the paint crew is still kind of getting their feet under them as they're doing things. And, the whose house, our house, I think it was kind of a warm up of that idea. They did it for a couple minutes today. So I think this is, I told him I pay special attention to him this year because my son should be at a bunch of games. I don't know if he was at this one. I didn't text him, but love watching the way the students interact with the team. Let's look at the stats real quickly. Like I said, I started this game nonchalantly myself personally. I didn't see the first couple minutes, and then right when I get a couple texts about Jacobson's situation, I go back, watch the highlights. But let's look at it. Trey Kaufman-Renn had 14 points, had 5 boards and a couple of assists. Lawyer led all scorers, I think, for both teams. Yep, 16 points, 4 assists, a steal, a block. I did not see that, I'll be honest. Jakari Harris had a couple nifty plays, and Harris and Colvin specifically both show up on the stat sheet the same way, but both are electric. I mean, Colvin had I can't remember. I think it was a lob where he just finger rolled in from the baseline. He only shot the ball, 6 times? But again, Purdue's offensive rhythm is really lacking right now. I think that's the biggest takeaway that I have. Brayton Smith, 11 points, 7 assists, 2 boards, and 3 turnovers. Like I said, Purdue had 13 turnovers. Northern Kentucky had 13 turnovers. Rebounds, always important for Purdue. This is a bad stat, and this is something that's going to be a problem, especially with Jacobson. It felt like, he was good as a rim protector and he was a good rebounder, but Purdue gets tied on the glass. That's pretty unusual for Purdue, especially the last couple of years. Hardly ever happened. And I think it's something that Painter will chew on them a little bit as they get ready for the next game. Purdue shot the free throw poorly, 64%, and 3-pointer was fine, 40%, 9 of 22 from the field. But Northern Kentucky really shot poorly from deep, 21%. They shot 23 threes. And that's kind of the difference is they took a lot of deep shots. They didn't get, I think, they're reliant on getting deep boards and kind of then getting the defense out of place with that and then getting bunnies. It's a unusual system. But, I would say I'd call it an uninspired effort by Purdue. First, like I said, 8 points in 12 minutes. Berg, 7 points in 17 minutes. Let's see, how were his fouls? Berg had 3 fouls. So this is going to be an ongoing theme. Berg struggles from getting the whistle. He's not. A couple of the plays, I can remember one specifically where it just there was no reason to foul the guy that he was guarding. He got a cheap one. And then another one that struggles with foul trouble, Jakari Harris, pardon me. He had a really cheap foul, like 55 feet from the basket, just pressuring Northern Kentucky guy who had gotten a loose ball, and he was on the other side of him too. So it's one of those plays where not only does he not come up with a loose ball, but then he gets a cheap foul. I think that's something Painter will work on with him. Who else? Yeah, Burgess was okay. So I talked about Burgess missing a bunny. I think he missed a couple easy ones. So I think this is where we're going to see the most progress. We look at this team just getting better. The big men finishing plays around the basket. I think it's something you're going to see a lot of improvement between now and, like I keep saying, beginning in January, beginning of the Big Ten season. I think it's essential for Purdue to get better at that. Purdue's 14th in the nation. I think I'm the first person that I've heard say around Purdue parts. I think Purdue's overrated. And they're overranked, overrated, whatever you want to say, based on the last few years, obviously. I said that though a while ago. I think being in the high teens, maybe low 20s might be the right place for this team to be, especially as they sit right now. They're going to get better. I firmly believe that, but they're not there right now. And a lot of that has to do with just getting guys comfortable with one another. But the other thing is getting experience. You got a lot of guys that need experience. I keep looking for Cam Heide to look for his shot. According to this box score, he didn't shoot. I thought I remembered him shooting. I know what. He was fouled. Yeah, he was fouled. He went up. So in the official box score, 0 for 0. So he's clearly not looking for his shot when he's in the game. He hit his 2 free throws though. But Kaufman-Wren is drawing fouls, but probably not at the rate that Paint wants to see it from big man. A lot of things Purdue needs to work on, but they do come away with the win by 22. Second half was kind of a cruise, especially the last 10 minutes or so of the game. So it's good to see, but as late as I was getting here with the post game, I think Purdue was also as nonchalant in the way they approach this game. Maybe I'm wrong, but a couple of you guys are here live. Thanks for being here. See what you guys have to say. Ryan Michael Anthony Harrington says, I trust in Paint, but his unwillingness to play TKR at the 5 is frustrating, especially given DJ going down early. Yeah, and I thought we'd see that. I thought you'd see a smaller lineup going faster, and I don't remember really seeing that. And especially you thought maybe with that, I think it's a fair commentary. It's a fair criticism that with the team not being able to get buckets, turning up the pace would have been something that is an option. It's a lot different than last year where you're not going to sit down Edey so you can go fast, right? So he continues, says Jacobson did have a sleeve on his shin. He hasn't had it in previous games. I wonder if he re-aggravated an injury in practice. And that's what I feel like it is. He really walked awkwardly after he got that knee to the shin. So we'll see. Zachary Welch says, Boiler up. I know the young guys are getting valuable runs right now and Linus will find the rhythm, but at what point does Braden say enough and start taking over games? I think he's trying to nurture these guys along, right? I mean, he had one stanza early in the second half where he looked for his shot. I think he hit a 3 and then he had it's either late in the first half or early in the second half. And then he had a play where he just spun the guy into tizzy, got a little pull up just inside the free throw line in the lane. And I agree. He has the ability to do it. And this Paint said last year, this is one of his biggest weaknesses, is inability to say, okay, this is mine, I'm going to do it. And I don't get any indicator that he's going to do that in these early games. So it's a good question. I think he could do it. And I think he's not willing to do that in these games. So even though both games, there's a time where the lead shrunk way down, especially first half and this and second in the last game, it still wasn't in danger. And I think he knows that. So Ethan says, Alabama looking shaky tonight, only up 5 on Arkansas State with 12 minutes to go. Alabama's really good. And I'd be shocked if they didn't figure it out real quickly. I don't have a TV on. I'm not watching that game. So Alabama's really good, really deep. They got the best combo guard in America and Sears. We'll see. It's going to be a fun test. Now it's getting closer. It's a week away. So November 15th in God's country, that'll be fun. And it'll be a great test to see where this team really is. If I'm asinine in my idea that they're overrated. So we'll see. I don't think I am, to tell you the truth. But funny thing is, a lot of college basketball teams are trying to figure this out. If you watch that first night where Purdue struggled and you looked at other teams across America, there were some teams that were really tested. Not everybody was, but really tested by their opponents, similarly to Purdue, meaning they got pushed and they were made to feel uncomfortable. I think Painter it likes that early in the season. I don't think he really wanted to have a game that was a big blowout, easy for Purdue to waltz to victory. So Rob White says, put up 72 with bad rhythm. No doubt. Yeah, that's the thing. They really... They can score, and you continue. I'm good with TKR at the 4 as long as we're scoring. Yeah, so they did put up 72 points, but man, I mean, I don't think I don't know if I can't tell by just by the text if you're being sarcastic or whatever. But yeah, I think the offense is not. It's so far from being there. Oh, one thing I want to say was kind of interesting was C.J. Cox now has braids and he wears 0, as you know. Doing a little bit of a Willie Dean impersonation. That's what I saw right away. I think Dean was 0, and Cox was not looking for a shot. Let's see. Look back at that box score real quickly. Cox in 16 minutes, he only shot 3 times. He was 0 for 3. Cox had a couple. Let's see. Did they give him official steals here? 3 steals for Cox, and that's the thing. He's going to be invaluable. He comes in right away and he turns the intensity up, and he's just a pest, right? He's making things difficult. He doesn't stop on plays. He's really a Purdue type guy. It's awesome to see. Broxton Davis says, Buddy and I debated at Harry's beforehand. Is there any point guard that you would take over Braden Smith from Purdue's past? Yeah, I debated this. I debated this early last season. I don't know if it was on a post game, but it was either a quick cast, and I said at that point, I thought he was the best Purdue point guard I had ever seen. And I'll stand by that. Lewis Jackson, right, kind of got close to that. Porter Roberts was really, really good at managing, the game with Glenn Robinson there. But when I think back, Eldridge, there's nobody in this contest for me in my memory. And you guys can correct me if I'm wrong and sound off. I think that's a good thing to do here. But no, I think he's the best Purdue point guard of my lifetime. I'm only 49, so many of you may remember back to the golden era, and I'd argue that Purdue is in a golden era right now, and I would say the other golden era was, of course, when Mount was there, that period with Mount and Keller. I think Keller was a point guard, but I don't remember, and I don't think I've even seen highlights of Keller playing in a Purdue uniform. I don't think I have. I grew up around the Pacers when Keller was playing, and I think he was playing point for the Pacers. So you guys can tell me where I'm wrong or right, but that's a pretty good point guard there. And there's one I'm missing in the early 80s. I know I'm missing one in the early 80s who was really good, but I don't remember like watching him play, if I'm remembering correctly, like on that great late 70s, 80s team with Joe Barry Carroll. So somebody help me here. Nathan Dolance says, have you tried Gene Katie's new beer? I have not. I'm not a big beer drinker. I'm not drinking alcohol right now. I've got a coffee because I wanted to try something that I had bought to make coffee. But I'm not drinking in bourbon tonight. I should have a bourbon, but instead I've got this. I've got a coffee drink. But I haven't tried Katie's beer. I'd like to hear what people have to say. So Coach Katie was at the game tonight. They talked about that on the BTN minus. The kids who did the game did a great job. They're doing their best. To me, that's something Big Ten Plus should be. It should be run by students, giving these guys and girls a chance to do what they did tonight. That's fun to see and hear. It's okay if there's some amateurism on that. I'm not bothered by that. I think it's kind of fun and different. And you see them, they'll get better too, right? As we watch them. Big Ten Network has screwed up Big Ten Plus so badly and messed around and pissed people off like me, maybe like you, where you've gotten burnt on buying it. And they did kind of an outreach this year to the West Coast, giving out free subscriptions. A lot of you guys jumped on that, which is awesome. So, let's see. Chris R says, Boilerman says, Nate, the beer is nice. So I don't know if it's a lager. I would assume it's a lager. So something that doesn't have the, I cannot stand, and this will piss a lot of you guys off, IPAs. I do not, I know I'm not much of a beer drinker, but I'm way on the other end of the IBU scale. So Chris R says, Boiler up, defense was really good tonight. Gotta shore up those boards and watch this team take off. Yeah, so this is something I think, is it TKR, the guy who you need to ratchet up on the boards? I'd say he's one of them. I think we saw a little glimpse of what First can do. I thought First would be a starter, regardless where Jacobson was and injury and all that, before we knew any of this stuff, weeks and months ago. I just thought First would vie for that starting role a lot more than he has. But tonight, I think you saw a guy, he's got a steady hand. He's really, really solid. He can do a lot of things. His athleticism is underrated. I would love to see him take advantage of the time, regardless how long Jacobson is out with injury, even if it's just one game. I'd like to see First jump on that opportunity. And then he's a big, strong dude. I just would love it. And that may be wishful thinking. I also think First is a different guy because I think his priorities are a little different off court. I think he has a lot of things that are super important to him. And maybe that's the reason his growth hasn't gone through what many of us thought he would be when he came to Purdue. But anyway, I would like to see him take advantage of that. And I think he starting on the glass would be a great place. But they need help there, obviously. Boiler Bruh 82 says, wasn't able to watch when First was in. Did he play next to TKR? Yes, he did. And it didn't seem awkward, but it surely didn't have a very good flow either. There was a great pass, if I remember correctly, by Smith to First, and he was one of the bigs that took advantage of the Smith putting the ball in the money. Smith does such a good job at going to a place to pull out a defender and then knowing exactly where his guy is supposed to be and dropping it off to him, right? We saw it all the time with Edey, but Edey isn't the only guy that took advantage of that. Obviously, TKR took advantage of that too. But today we saw a couple where guys didn't make the bunny at the end. Burgess has tons of potential, and I don't mean to pick on the guy. He has tons of potential, but man, I think he missed 2, if I remember correctly. And I think he's going to get a ton better this year. He may be the guy we watch grow up the most this year, but yeah, just my opinion. Zachary Welch says, rebounding looks to be an issue. I know Zach is a huge loss on the boards, but also it feels like we're missing Mason a bunch as well. Okay, I'll keep going. Need to see some of the young guys get hungry for boards. Yeah, and you miss Gillis's mentality. I don't know if you guys saw this. Gillis had 10 points, I think, in the first game for Duke. No surprise to see him thriving and helping that team out. They're very young, too. Duke is extremely talented, but very young. Shocker, huh? But, yeah, you miss his mentality in practice because I think he helps guys toughen up. Let's not forget, this time of last year, that team was taking everything personally, and you had a resolute Zach Edey and a resolute Mason Gillis and a resolute Braden Smith saying, F everybody, we're going to do it ourselves. We're going to come back and prove everybody wrong who thinks that we're less than we are. And this year, I'm not saying teams or Purdue has their foot off the gas. In fact, I think that's the opposite. I think Fletch and Braden and TKR understand that it's their team to lead. But at the same time, Gillis is missed. I think he's missed very much. And if you ever heard some of the stories about rebound drills and loose ball drills, somebody would break a nose, get a cracked orbital, end up with a black eye, like violence, flat out violence in practice. And Purdue does not have that mentality yet, and somebody's got to pick it up. CJ Cox has a little bit of that, like with his intensity. Burgess has some of that. He's intense, but he doesn't have edge to him. Paint always talks about guys playing with edge. Purdue doesn't have that yet, and it's pretty weird to see. They're going to grow into it, but they got to figure out that these games matter, and maybe Alabama will be smelling salts to this team. I don't know, but they got to figure some things out. Joe Inslee says PJ Cunningham, Parkinson times 2. Ricky Hall. Okay, so you got PJ Carson. Yeah, Cunningham's good. Parkinson, the dad, right? Very, very good. I see what you're talking about. The point guard. Sorry, I'm slow on the uptake. Ricky Hall. That's it, Joe. Well done. And I do remember Ricky Hall playing. Excuse me. I think Ricky Hall was 83 or 84. Is that right? Or is it before that? So I don't know. I don't know the answer, but I do remember seeing Ricky Hall play. I just don't remember it well. I would guess that was 83 or 84 that he graduated. So yeah, these are all good names. I think Braden Smith's better than all of them. And these are all good. I think still, though, I'd say Ricky Hall is probably better than Lewis Jackson. Cunningham was fun to watch, right? He was super inventive. Smith has a little bit of that, like the craftiness that Cunningham had. PJ Thompson was just efficient as hell, and he made shots. I mean, there was a period of time where, sophomore, junior year when he was starting at point where he was hitting everything from three too, but he wasn't a creator or anything. Smith is a creator. He makes other people better. He does so well in tight, confined spaces. And the thing I probably like more than anything about Smith, let's see, I'm trying to look. Ricky Hall played at times with a chip on his shoulder, but I think Smith plays more of a chip on his shoulder. As a short guy, I appreciate that. I know Smith's not my height, but he's not close to Lewis Jackson's height either. Jackson played with a chip on his shoulder. Jackson was a tremendous athlete, but Jackson was not the all-around player I think that Smith was. But let's see. James Frott says, how long till fives get some bulk? I'm guessing junior year. It's five. So generally I think it takes time, right? Bulking up takes time. You have to change your diet. You have to change the way you do things. You're obviously not going to get big and strong during the season. Most guys don't go through that. If you look at on the team, and he's not a five, but look at Colvin. I think Colvin is bigger and stronger than he was last year. He did most of his bulking up relatively early in the summer, in the spring. And I noted that on one of the quick casts. But some guys don't have remember, Matty Harms never got bulky. And maybe Jacobson's that guy. I don't know. It's too early for me to tell. I think he will get bigger and stronger. His shoulders are pretty narrow, and his legs, man, that's the thing. It's hard. A lot like Harms. That's a lot of long leg and not much bulk. And one thing that Purdue fans are absolutely just spoiled rotten with was Edey's ability to get down, bang on a dude, get him out of the way, and use his lower body to create space because he was so strong, frustratingly strong for the opponent. I think Caleb First's the guy who's strong right now, obviously, and that's part of the reason I have that theory of him being a difference maker down there, just because he's a beast, man. But hopefully it's not just wishful thinking. All right. Big Time Boiler Grant says, work in progress indeed. Ugly basketball last 2 weeks, 2 games. My fault. Yes, it is. And he continues, can we please see a lineup of Smith, Lawyer, Colvin, Heidi, TKR? Yeah, I think you will see that lineup. It feels to me there's something happening right now. And I don't know if it's Painter not unleashing Heidi, or if Heidi just doesn't have the mentality to go looking for his shot right now. But that could be part of the thing. Or maybe, Payne always talks about guys their success not being predicated on making shots or making points. But he has a different mentality. He looks different to me than the second half of last year. That might be part of the issue here. I don't know. But that lineup sounds like it'd be pretty dynamic. There's a lot of buckets out there. But Heidi's got to figure a couple things out. And if I was going to say right now, I mean, it's so early. We haven't even seen a game where the intensity has turned up. You saw a little bit of it in the second half in the first game because of the test they went through, or minor test. But yeah, a Swedish gag says, I think Purdue has played with their competition a lot. Yeah, they're not playing above their competition. I think the indicator of tying and rebounds for this game is the best indicator of what you're talking about. Yeah, that's the mentality, and that's the problem with youth. They don't get it yet, right? They don't understand that you gotta kind of crush a team, put them out of their misery earlier, not let them hang around. And this team did a good job wearing this Northern Kentucky down, and they didn't have the foul trouble to contend with. The last game did. They didn't have anybody that was just dropping like flies. They wore that team down, I'd say, tonight. I think that's a fair assessment based on what I saw. Let's see. Yeah, I think they had a guy with 3 fouls in the first half, but the refs were calling the game weird too. Sometimes I feel like Paint goes to him at the beginning of the game and says, in games like this, let them play, or don't be afraid to whistle my guys. I feel like that happens. I don't know if Paint does that or not, kind of to teach guys a thing or two. But then again, NCAA officials are just awful. Absolute dog water. Andy in Colorado says, good evening. How are you, Andy? Big Time Boiler again says, DJ has my exact skinny build at that age, just a foot taller. That's quite a big difference, Grant. It took me about 15 years to bulk up. So that's all we have to wait then. It's solved. It's in 15 years, Daniel Jacobson will be Grant's pretty put together. I hope that he can bulk up a little quicker than that. I have a good friend. He comes on here sometimes named Al, and in college he was a rail, and then after college I had the ability, I could get stronger when I was in college, and so we lifted together as we were after Purdue grads, and but he didn't gain any weight. And now that he's a dad, he's kind of filled out a little bit, and to me, looks healthier. But I'm a guy that carries a pound or two. So yeah, it's I think as a basketball player, especially in the Big Ten, you want your guys to be put together a little bit more. But there is no time frame of getting these guys bulked up. There just isn't. I wish we could say there is, but it doesn't matter how many, milkshakes you eat late at night. And that's not the type of bulk you want to get, but they got to figure out what the trick is. Nemanja Chalison says, hope those free throws pull Cam out of the ghost town he's been living in. Yeah, he's been nowhere. So, so it's weird watching him play. It's just weird because that drive that he had when he got the free throws, you're like, okay, that's Cam Heide, right? He attacked the hoop, he drew the foul, he was up in the air. I mean, I want to see more of that. And we saw a little bit of Colvin attacking the hoop tonight, but Colvin's not, he didn't take a ton of shots. But limited chances to get into rhythm. And it's not just those two guys, it's the entire team as Paint continues to tinker. Will he start making a decision soon on what this team's going to look like? The guys who are going to get the majority of the minutes. I think Alabama, you may see a drastic change. I think it could happen that quickly, but who knows? Who knows? Free fries tonight. I saw that in the crowd. Where is that from, Joe? Was that from, my guess was Freddie's? Maybe you can tell me, because Freddie's has a good relationship with Purdue, I think, right now. And delicious burger, by the way. To me, Freddie's has shot past Steak and Shake years ago, because Steak and Shake here in Central Indiana, even with their new system, not even worth going to. Culver's, also a good smash burger. So the Tap, free fries from the Tap. Okay, I didn't see that coming. So, fries. What was the reason? What earned the fries? I don't know what the reason. I saw the sign, so I don't know. But anyway, I think I'm going to call it a night. I appreciate everybody being here live and interacting. It's always fun to talk to you guys, and maybe we can all figure this out together. I think that's the whole thing. This year, everything's different. Everything's new. Last year was funny. I can remember I was like pulling myself back all season in my conversation to try not to look too far ahead. Right? I don't know if you remember me saying that. I was like, I've got to harness myself. This year, it's different. It's fun to watch a team grow up, but at the same time, they're such a work in progress. You're like, man, this is it's not comfortable basketball because they don't know each other and they are not playing comfortable yet. So let's see. Yeah, 2 missed free throws. Okay, so when the other team missed both the free throws, like the chicken tender deal last year from Slim Chickens, right? It's the same deal. Gotcha. Oh boy, Ethan says Fire Walters chants were pretty loud. So a little cross training there, bringing that into the basketball arena, and they're not going to go away. They're not going to go away unless we see something drastically, unusually, shockingly change. Tomorrow at noon, Purdue will be on versus Ohio State. It's a game that, as of right now, I don't even know I'm going to be able to watch the entire thing. Not because I don't want to, because boy, who doesn't want to watch that game? But my nephew's in town from out of the state, and he's got a tournament that I'm going to, so I'm going to miss big chunks of it. I don't know if it's going to be me or Jay doing a post game. If it's me, it's going to be very late because of the family commitments, and I don't know if you guys are hanging on every word. I think you're just coming to relate. So maybe I'll do a late post game. I'll talk to Jay about it, but we'll see. Adam P says, is it possible to simply just go with a Boiled Sports preview of the Yale game at halftime tomorrow? Is it possible simply so instead of talking about football, we do that? So I got to tell you, that schedule that I've got tomorrow is a problem. So I haven't even looked. Here's the thing. I'm way out of practice with basketball. I know Yale is next before Alabama. Let's look at that real quickly. That game's coming quickly. I'm going to click this and I'm going to get some stupid autoplay thing happening here, I bet. So Yale is on the 11th, 8 p.m. Big Ten Network. And then you got Alabama, of course, the big one. And then you've got Marquette, another big one. And then you go back to Big Ten minus versus Marshall on the 23rd. So, but that's a fun 3 games right in front of Purdue: Yale, Bama, and Marquette. As we've all looked ahead a little bit in the schedule, that's those you're going to learn more about this Purdue team in the next few weeks in those 3 games. Than any time we have in the last couple of years, because we already knew the commodity last year. Even go back 3 years ago, I was watching a highlight reel of that team with Trey Williams and Ivy. And man, we knew what we were getting, right? Three seasons ago. So this is pretty weird that there's so much to learn about how they play together. Andy in Colorado says they'll be better by the end of the season. Yeah, I think so. You're putting the time frame of development out that far, and I think you might be right. But if they wait that long to gel, they're going to drop off out of the top 25. I'd say before the Big Ten. No, early in the Big Ten season. So, but this could be a lot like, who was it last year? Was it Alabama last year that had murderer's row schedule in the pre-con, and they lost a lot of games, but they stayed, I think it was Alabama because Purdue played them, but they stayed ranked because they were playing such good teams. The next commenter here, Jack Leonard 22 says, I love the black shirt. Is that a tribute to Nebraska's defense? Yeah, I am all in for the black shirts, you know that, and thank you for noticing. Yeah, I need my Cornhuskers to get bowl eligible, Jay. You know that. So, Jay, now that I haven't talked to you yet, if you want to do a post game tomorrow, I don't know if you heard that part earlier. You're welcome to it. Just because I'm pulled away, and then we can do what we did last week, where you do a post game and then I do some comments after. But you did such a good job. Maybe we should do that. Anyway, Rob White says, for what it's worth, we covered tonight. Okay. I never know what the spread is. So they at least played to where Vegas thinks. We aren't as good as last year, but we continue to get better. And yeah, I think we can debate. And please, in the comments, tell me I'm wrong and tell me why I'm wrong saying Purdue's overrated. I just think 14 is a good number, and I think Purdue is not there yet. Like you said earlier, who said it? Andy said they'll be there by the end of the season. They could be. I think there's a good chance they could be there. And I trust in Painter and his systems. I trust in Brantley. I trust that whole coaching staff. PJ, it's a great staff. The problem is there's some things you just can't accelerate, right? You just can't get all that much better in a hurry. There are things you have to go through. You have to feel what it's like to lose. You have to feel what it's like to get the hell beaten out of you. You have to feel what it's like to disappoint, and you have to feel what it's like to rise to the occasion at Mackey Arena and feel what it's an amazing thing to walk off the court after being triumphant, right? And they may just need some words of encouragement by some guys who used to play in the program. Stuff like that matters. Maybe Edie's back for a game or something, and he says something that flips the switch for one of the big men. Maybe it's for Caleb first. I don't know. Again, wishful thinking. Andy Colorado says, I don't think it will take all season to get it together. Just that they will clearly be much better at the end than they are now as the season approaches. Yes, I agree. Yeah, I don't think it'll take all season, but it could. It could. And I think that's what, as fans, as alums, as ticket holders, got to be ready for that. I think it's a fair thing to say this is the transitional season. The question is how many wins they get during a transitional season. I think I guessed 22 to 24. Brian at Golden Black has it a higher number. I think he said 26. He had some pretty good predictions. He believes in this team getting better quickly. So, like I said, this next 2 weeks is probably, I don't want to say it's not the most important 2 weeks of the season by any means, but it's just going to show a lot to the team themselves where they stand. Obviously, you got the number 2 team, you got the number 18 team. And you got Yale, who's a back-to-back tournament team. They play really smart brand of basketball, but they lost their 7-footer, so they're going to be a little bit different than they have been the previous couple seasons. So, yeah. Zachary Welch says, I think the Poles trust Paint. Absolutely. And they have Braden. Yes, another guy who the media loves for good reason. Good shooting, fantastic coaching, throwing Mackey magic, and this team's likely the best team in the Big Ten. Okay, so your assessment is everything's going to go best case scenario, right? What we've seen is that this team has lapses in shooting where there's a lid. And that's a very big difference from where they have been the last few seasons. Because if you needed a bucket, you had this amazing safety blanket. You had the dude, right? So you could miss buckets, and he would go get the board in impossible situations. He'd go up high, had two dudes hanging on him, and he'd still clean up the glass, right? So it was a very good shooting team, especially towards the end of the season. They were one of the best shooting teams in America, second best in America. I don't think they're going to shoot that well this year because you're going to have to. A lot of teams are going to they're not going to have anybody sagging off anybody, right? And maybe Heidi is paying the cost for that. I compared. And it's not a fair comparison. I compared Aaron Wheeler's situation, though. Wheeler benefited from having Boogie next to him, right? Because Boogie was on. Okay, you're gonna have to try to slow him down, right? So Wheeler was like, okay, open. He bombed a three. Heidi benefited from there was space in the lane, so he could go and play above the rim, right? He could go and try to take advantage of a dude turning his back, trying to do something on double down on Edey or something, right? So that's a big deal. That's a big deal. And Lance Jones isn't there either. That's the thing. We discount that, but he was aggressive as hell. And if nothing else, teams had to have, they knew his scores mentality, right? And he was going to attack teams. So there's a lot of differences in this team. I would love to see Jakari Harris become the Lance Jones type of driver to the transition game. I just don't think he's ready yet. And Cox has a little bit of that mentality, but really Harris is the one guy I think that could get close to that. So yeah, a lot of growth. Big Time Boiler says, I agree. Don't like top 15 right now. Don't look like a top 15 team right now. Continue says, hopefully Big Ten season, things start clicking. And that's my goal. And that's my guess. My best guess is that in January, you'll see this team start coming into its own. The potential injury of Jacobson changes that forecast a little bit, but maybe it's a good thing for this team. And we've seen this before where Purdue's coaches do a really good job of taking advantage of stuff like this. So we'll see how long Jacobson's out. I don't think we don't know anything yet. I don't know anything. You don't know anything. But I don't think this is the injury that many thought it was or were talking like it was on Twitter. Derek Mulligan says, sorry, I got it. I'm late. Love you and your work, sir. I appreciate it, Derek. That's very kind. And I love you too. I didn't. Let's do one of these. Appreciate it, Derek, in all seriousness. Painter always says it's best to be able to learn while winning. Yeah, he does. But he also, you're right. I mean, there's so many things this team can take away from tonight, right? But I hate saying this. I mean, I am, and I have a lot of Purdue fans disagree with me. Jay disagrees with me. I think he's backed off that a little bit, but I think they're going to lose a game or two in this pre-con. And I think this Alabama one is going to push this team as hard as they can go. You're going to see a different level of Mackey, obviously, which will be awesome for the young guys to see that totally explosive electric crowd. But I think Alabama's going to be geared up. And if Purdue comes out of that one with a win, we're cooking with gas, and all of a sudden you're like, okay, they're going to go from 14th to they're going to be top 7, wouldn't they? I mean, I think it's rocket fuel. I don't want to say I don't want it to happen, but that's a game that you learn different things, my guess is Purdue it doesn't come out of that one with a win. So, and then you got back-to-back potential, especially licking your wounds, going against Marquette. Another beast of a team physically. They're going to get tested again. So it's a good schedule for a team to grow up on, and it's a tough schedule. So Derek continues. Alabama had a scare tonight. Okay, it says against Arkansas State 6:30 from the last time I checked. 6:30 from the last time I checked. Okay, so yeah, they were. Sorry, I apologize for not being able to understand what you're saying. But yeah, somebody said earlier, I know you weren't here, and they said they were getting tested. Arkansas State, not the highest quality opponent, but it could be they're doing the exact same thing Purdue is. Maybe they're growing up a little. They have a ton of new moving parts, but their moving parts are extremely experienced. Cliff Omanuri, right? I mean, like, that's when I keep thinking about him, like, dang, how many years is he going to be in college? It feels like he's in year 15, and none of the eligibility rules matter anymore, but it just feels like he's 1,000 years old because he was so effective at Rutgers. He was such a thorn in the side for Purdue and for Edey, and for other big men, not just Edey. Matthew Keller says, were they really chanting fire Walters? Good reports on here. I don't think anybody has anything to gain here. I couldn't hear it. The funny thing, the mics are so different on BTN minus. It feels like a different atmosphere. I'm sure you guys and girls that were there, you could feel if Mackey was electric. It didn't look like it, but it looked full. So, and I think it was full. So great showing for the crowd. Jeff Nestor says Marquette losing at halftime to George Mason. Yeah. So this is the thing. This is what happens. Marquette's getting used to a new world too, right? They lost their point guard as well. So I think they lost more than that, but they're a really well coached team, really physical. They're going to be really good, and they're 18th. So yeah, Purdue and they're not in exactly Purdue's situation. I don't think anybody is in Purdue's situation. The closest to the drop off that Purdue has to deal with is probably UConn because of the sheer amount of talent they lost. But differently than Purdue, UConn reloads with just tons of money and tons of NIL guys and some blue chips, true blue chips. So a little bit different situation. And Hurley is, or what's his name? Hurley's okay. Coach, he's okay. He's all right. I don't know if you guys know that. And he's a jackass. Yeah, Derek Mulligan says 6 for 30 from three. 6 for 30 from three. So my guess is Sears is involved in that ineptitude from deep. Holy crap, though. No, thank you. I appreciate the clarification. I was trying to figure out what you were saying, and you weren't out of line. Sometimes I forget how to read. I'm not kidding. It's horrible. But thanks for the clarification. 6 for 30 from three is a problem for any team to deal with, and your game is going to be close. We remember when Edwards was at Purdue and he'd have games where he himself would be 6 for 30. That Penn State game is the one I remember. Purdue won the game, but he shot horribly and it went to overtime and Purdue found a way to win. But it's poison for a team because it's as good as a turnover because not only are you missing a deep three, it's going way the other way, especially when you're like Edwards was where you're shooting from 1,000 feet away. So good post game. It's not a quick cast, by the way. A post game is not a quick cast. Those are very different. And the conversation is always great with you guys here. Appreciate it. 47 minutes, pretty good. So hope you have a great rest of the Friday evening. Getting dark early. It felt like it was about 9 o'clock here at 6 for me because I'm an old man. There's a couple more comments. Did you see Edie tonight? Derek says in the NBA with a stare down. Awesome. Not sure if you've already discussed it. He also hit a three again. The guy's good, and the thing that's really cool is you're watching him get his legs under him and become the badass that we all knew him as for, multiple years at Purdue. But if you remember back when Travion Williams was at Purdue, Edie gladly took the back seat, right? I don't think he needs to take the back seat very long in the NBA because he knows what he is now. He has confidence in who he is as a player. Remember, he developed into that thing that we became, accustomed to as Purdue fans. But one thing I saw last game he played in, he dunked and a guy fouled him and didn't get called and he kind of snarled. That snarl, I love that damn look because I was like, oh, he's serious now. And if he gets in that mode that he got for Purdue where he starts getting mad at other teams and then he starts playing like an absolute bastard, like watch out, NBA. You're looking for a guy who's not like, just a guy in the rotation, but you're going to have a guy that is just feared. And it's very possible. That's awesome, though. I don't know who stared him down or he tried to stare down, whatever. They don't want any of that heat. They don't want that. So, finger guns. He did finger guns. He didn't do finger guns tonight, did he, Derek? That's awesome if he did. Okay, Zachary Welch says, Paint does a great job of scheduling teams, the non-con that stress Purdue in ways that they traditionally struggle. And he's gotten better at that scheduling. I agree. I don't mind the tightness in these games because they do help us. Yes. And so like you're seeing things like the last game, the way that team defended passing lanes was giving Purdue fits. And Paint knew that was going to happen with Texas A&M Cocoa Krispies. Yeah. Oh, so Derek Mulligan says, yeah, no finger guns yet. I think finger guns are a ways away. If I were going to do the prediction of Zach-isms that start showing up, finger guns, maybe that shows up in a fun late game, out on the West Coast when they're beating up on somebody who's not good, in December. But I don't know. I think his teammates may know the finger guns and maybe give him shit for it. And yeah, so finger guns are hilarious. because when he did it, I was like, that's the least intimidating thing that Zach did. And he had different finger guns. He had one where he just do one big, it was like kind of count it, right? It was just like one big pistol because that's a long barrel. But when he did the double finger guns, always funny to me. Always made me laugh. So, all right. So this time I'm serious, just under 50 minutes. Have a great evening. Enjoy the season for what it is. This team's going to get better as we go along. Let's hope it's accelerated. Let's hope by January, like some of us think it could be, but it may not be that quickly. But I trust in Paint, this coaching staff. I trust in this team. If they work their ass off, good things going to happen. God bless you. Hammer down. We'll see you later. Purdue's 2-0. See ya.